据彭博新闻社报道，美中两国的首席贸易谈判代表最快将于下周举行电话会议，讨论双方第一阶段贸易协议的执行情况。美国总统特朗普日前警告说，如果北京不遵守协议的条款，将终止这项协议。美国财长姆努钦本周早些时候也表示，如果中国不遵守美中第一阶段经贸协议，将可能面临严重后果。根据美国商务部星期二发布的数据，美国第一季度对中国的商品出口同比下降约15%。有分析人士对北京是否有能力实现协议中的购买承诺表示担忧。在当前情况下，美中第一阶段经贸协议中购买美国商品的目标是否能够实现？姆努钦所说的后果可能包括什么内容？本期热点快评，我们为您邀请到美国卡托研究所贸易政策研究中心副主任西蒙莱斯特。我们现在就来听一听他的看法。
It seemed to me, and I think to many others as well, that the purchase commitments were unrealistic to begin with. U.S. exports to China in 2017 were about $170 billion. And under the Phase 1 trade deal, China was supposed to purchase an additional $200 billion over 2 years. And that is a substantial increase. And I thought it was unlikely that China would be able to meet it before the pandemic. Now the pandemic has hit, and economies around the world are collapsing. It's hard to imagine that China could still buy those amounts. It's also hard to imagine that the U.S. will have those amounts to sell. We're shutting down production of food and manufacturing because of the spread of the disease through our manufacturing facilities. So I don't think it's realistic to meet those goals. I will say that I'm not sure that even the Trump administration thought the goals were realistic to begin with. And it always seemed to me that they might, in the end, celebrate whatever small increase there was in U.S. exports to China. And I'm not convinced that they were really thinking that China was going to purchase $200 billion more over 2 years, because that's just too much, to realistically happen. I've heard two consequences mentioned. One is more tariffs. The other is the U.S. wouldn't pay some of the debt that it owed to China. China has lent the U.S. the money, and we owe it to them. There's a question of whether we would pay it back. In terms of the debt, I think most people, when they heard that, reacted very strongly and said, look, we have to honor our debts. That's clear. So my sense is the idea of not repaying debt to China is off the table. And so then the consequence, the alternative consequence, the main one that President Trump has used is tariffs. And we've seen this play out many times before. There are many tariffs in place. There are tariffs in place on over $300 billion of Chinese imports. Perhaps it will be expanded to new imports. Perhaps the rates will be raised. This is nothing new if anyone's been paying attention in the last 2 or 3 years. So yes, there might be more tariffs, although the tariffs in place are already so high that it somehow doesn't seem that big of a deal to have more. But we may end up with more tariffs than we already have. I guess I've heard speculation about sanctions imposed on particular Chinese government leaders who were somehow involved, had some relationship to the coronavirus, singling out particular people that someone in the U.S. government is mad at for their actions related to the coronavirus. So I think that's also a possibility. It still seems very speculative at this point, and I'm not sure where this is going. There's a lot of harsh words going back and forth between the Trump administration, other people in Washington, and then Chinese government officials. I think the purchase commitments will be hard to meet. And if China breaks those commitments in the sense of not fulfilling them, I don't know that anyone will be too upset, because, as I was saying before, I don't think it's realistic to expect them to meet those purchase commitments. However, if China continues to try to comply with the other provisions in good faith, and to adjust its laws to allow hormone-treated beef to be sold there, for example, or to improve intellectual property protection, then I think that the deal will continue to function, even if certain parts of it are not being complied with.
听众、观众朋友们，您刚才听到的是美国卡托研究所贸易政策研究中心副主任西蒙莱斯特就这一问题发表的看法。 嘉宾在节目中发表的观点仅代表嘉宾本人，不代表美国之音。感谢您的收听收看，我们下期再见。